Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to do a street in snow with a few minor details in it, but it is one way to get an easy look at perspective. And of course it's winter, so fun to learn how to draw snow, how to paint snow. So you'll need a ruler and some paintbrushes, various sizes, at least one rather large one. I'm using a small canvas. If you have a bigger canvas, get a bigger paintbrush. And this is going to have a limited palette. So we're going to be using titanium white, Payne's gray. If you don't have Payne's gray, black will be okay, but you'll also need to add a little bit of blue to it. So Payne's gray is really good. I'm using grass green, and I might add a little bit of Viridian to it, and Van Dyke brown. And what we're going to do first is we're going to paint. If you're using a very large canvas, you want to work in stages. But if you choose a smaller canvas, you can do it all at once. Okay, so, and that's only just so that it doesn't dry on you. We're going to have the street end about here. So we're going to draw a straight line across. And I'm lining up my ruler with the edge of the canvas. Theoretically, the canvas is straight. I forgot to say you need a pencil. Now, our vanishing point on this is a 1-point perspective. If we were doing a landscape that had a bigger canvas and was lengthwise, we might use a perspective on either side, but right now we're using a 1-point perspective. And you can put it in anywhere here in the middle. You don't have to measure anything. It doesn't have to be the exact middle. And give yourself just kind of a little dot. And then you're going to draw a line from the corner. I'm using a square canvas. If you have a canvas that is not square, don't do it from the corner. Go off the edge a little bit. From the corner to the dot. And the same thing on the other side. And that's our street. Now, we may not have it go exactly to a point, but this is giving us, where our street is. So the first thing you want to do is on your palette, you want to put a good amount of the white. Be careful to open it away from you so it doesn't get on your clothes. And I put a good dollop of white, even though this is a small canvas. It's like 4x4, maybe 5x5, and a big dollop of white. And you're going to paint the whole thing white. Now, I'm going to add a little bit of, because I am here in Phoenix, and even though it's winter, it's still very dry. I have a little bit of slow dry medium so that my paint doesn't get dry and gummy right away, because it needs to be wet. So I want to do this top side to side above the street, side to side. And brush strokes matter. When you're painting gesso on a canvas, you want to use this way and then this way. It makes a pattern on the canvas. And even though this isn't going to be what color it is up at the top, we do want your mind sees that, your eye sees that, and landscapes and sky and stuff, they're always horizontal. Now you're going to again paint white. This time you're going along these lines. It's okay if you paint over the line. Your brush strokes will help you know where that line is. And then you're going to fill in the triangle here. But just try to give yourself some kind of indication of where that is by not getting right exactly to it yet. Eventually, when we're blending the colors in, you can go right to the edge and not have that gap. We could, of course, paint the whole thing white and then draw on top of it, but I want the paint to be white, wet, so that I don't have to keep mixing colors. So there we go. Now you're going to have just the tiniest amount of Payne's gray, and I just put a tiny little drop. You don't need a whole lot. I'm still using the same brush because I'm going to be doing the sky, and I'm just touching the Payne's gray. Don't get a lot of it, and my brush still has white on it. Don't get a lot of it because it's very strong. And you're just going to start, at first you're just going to start putting that in there. You will need to add more white, especially the first place that you touched it. But you want it not to be even and the same. You want to have it darker here, lighter there. So don't try to blend it all exactly the same color. This is the clouds coming down to the ground here, basically. I'm going to add just a tiny bit of white, just to get a different look here and there. And if you want that side to look more like this side, you know, put touch here and then touch there and then spread. Okay, so now I'm going to get just a tiny amount of Payne's gray more, you know, like this. And we're going to go right along the edge of the street here. And it's okay that this side is darker because we're going to have shadows on this side. Can't touch the canvas, it's wet. Okay. If it starts to not want to spread, it's because the paint is drying and you need to add just the tiniest bit of water to get it to continue to spread, but you don't want it to blend into one color. And I'm adding a little bit more white because snow, of course, it has a tinge of blue, but it's not blue, right? So, and if you're using something other than Payne's gray, like I said with black, you're going to want to add just a hint of blue. I use Payne's gray more than I do black. It's not as strong, and black actually has a blue tone to it. So that's okay for our street right now. And then we're going to lay down just a little bit of snow on the sides. We, of course, are going to put other things on top of that. But again, you're going to have white on your paintbrush. And then just tiny amount of the Payne's gray. Doesn't have to be a lot. And this is going to be toward the background here. Now, stuff in the background is lighter than in the foreground, so that's another part of perspective. And I got way too much Payne's gray here, so I have to add some white. You're going to try to go around that horizon line right there. If you get it too dark, you just do what I did and just add white. It'll eventually come back the right color. You don't panic. And of course, you can always just let it dry and then try it again. But, you know, it's okay. This is the background. This is behind what we're going to draw on the street, so that's okay. All right, so we're going to put this brush down for right now, and you're going to want to have Van Dyke Brown on your canvas. So you're not going to need very much of it at all, far less than you did of the Payne's gray. Oh, sorry, I'm using a much smaller paintbrush. And you could also use a fan brush. Right now we're going to put in trees in the back, and they're just barely there, so you don't want to, you know, put in big strong strokes. And so this time you're going to mix on your canvas so that you can, on your palette, so that you can kind of, I have two colors here, and that's probably enough brown. I'm going to turn this so you can see what I'm mixing here. I'm mixing brown into this white, and I want just a very light brown. These are trees without leaves, and they're here in the background. And right now I'm just patting. I'm not trying to make them look like trees right now. I'm going to have things off to the side, so it really just needs to be kind of in the middle. But if you want to paint it all the way to the side, you can always paint over it, so you can do that. Now that I have just the hint of trees here, I'm going to use the, now if you use the smaller brush right away, stay with the same brush. And I'm going to add just a tiny bit more brown. And give the indication of some branches here and there. Not very dark and not very thick, because these are really far away. It doesn't have to look detailed. This is just background. Now, we are going to do a little bit more of a detail of other trees. And right here, we're going to draw a tree without leaves. And I'm using almost pure brown and letting it blend in with the background here. I'm steadying my hand with my pinky so that I can get kind of a straight line. But if it's not perfectly straight, that's okay, because trees are never perfectly straight. And a few branches here and there. Don't push very hard on the brush, you're just using the tip. I only have paint on the very tip of my brush. And if nothing paints, it's because I don't have enough paint. But try not to push hard. This one doesn't have to be really detailed, it's just a dead tree in the background. Not dead, dormant. And then we're going to touch our paintbrush in the white and add some snow on these branches. You do want the pure white to add snow on this. Anywhere where the tree is slightly darker, you can add some snow. And maybe some snow stuck to the bark here. All right. And then a little bit closer is another tree without leaves. On this side. And it's gonna go right about here. Since it's closer, it's a little bit thicker, so I'm putting a little bit more paint on my brush than on the last one. And pushing just a little bit more to get a little bit thicker of a line, and we can see more of how the branches are going. Some of this tree won't be seen, because we're going to have some evergreens in front of it. But again, you're going to want to put some snow here and there on the branches. Just subtle hints. Your eye sees it later, but it doesn't have to be, really defined. That's why it's okay if the branches skip a little bit, when you're putting the paint down. Putting a little bit more snow on this one because we can see it better. We don't want our snow to be brown, so if it starts mixing with the brown of the tree, make sure you give it a pause and then put some more white on it. So those are our background trees. Now we're going to add a couple of mailboxes. And I just am making a mixture of brown and Payne's Gray on my palette. Just a little bit of each. You want to have enough that you know, you can put something down, but we're going to have one right here. This is the closest one, so it's the darkest one and the tallest one. But it still doesn't need that much detail. And there's snow on top of it, so you don't have to draw everything of it. So I just took a paper towel and just wiped my brush. I didn't clean it, so that the dark color would come off of it. And I'm putting some snow on top of here and around the bottom. All right. And then back into my brown and Payne's Gray mix. And about midway here, I'm going to put another mailbox. This one's smaller because it's further away. And if you want to double check your perspective, you need to, like at the top of this mailbox toward that vanishing point, you want to see where that mailbox should end, okay? And it should be about here. I've been doing this for a while, so I kind of have a feel for it, but it's still good to check every now and then. And I'm just going to go ahead and put in the last one. So it's going to go over here. I want it to be lighter, so I'm not worried about the paint mixing too much. Oops, it disappeared. Now you can see I got a little bit carried away with the mailbox there, but you can just put snow on it and fix it. It's not a big deal. Okay. Snow on this one. It's right here. And it just needs to give the impression of mailboxes. It doesn't have to be a perfect mailbox. Now, using my brown, I'm going to draw a fence. It's a wooden fence that's right here. It's okay if it's not straight. I like it. It's not quite dark enough for me. Now this has to be consistent with in height between these mailboxes. You don't want a 6-foot fence or anything like that. And then I have a glob of paint that fell off and it's bothering me, so just a minute. Oh dear. I've been scraping paint all over the place. That's okay because that bush is going to go back there. And if something gets over like that, you can fix it by, even if you didn't mean to have something in the picture there, you can add stuff. So I happen to know this street. It's where I grew up. But, you know, nobody else does. So I think this fence has more supports in it. It looks like it needs a lot. Okay. I'm going to fix that when I'm doing the tree. All right. So now we're going to make sure we have some green on our palette. I used a different green before, and I didn't like it, so well, it would help if my green was open. So bear with me a second. Sorry. You're going to use slightly more green than you did brown. Oops. I got a whole blob of green out. That's why I said oops. So just a second. It got all over my paintbrush and everything. Okay. I'm using the same paintbrush. I have to move this giant glob of green. Okay. I'm going to mix Payne's gray and green to get a deeper color. There are areas where I'll use just the green. So it's really dark. Here's the green that I put down, the Payne's gray, and that's the mix. So it's a very, very dark green. And we're gonna put a bush over here. That's an evergreen, so it has green on it. And just go ahead and pat in here. And you can put some green in between here if you want to. I'm doing it because, well, it would be there anyway, but I'm doing it because I made that blob. And this is a bush, not a tree. Well, it's kind of a bush. And so you don't have to be perfect with how it's going. Just don't try to make it really even. Don't make it circles. And when it dries a little bit, we're going to put some snow on it. And then on the other side, over here, we're going to put a very big tree. Also an evergreen. But you don't need to paint all of the branches because we're going to go in and put snow. But you do want to put a lot of them. And don't completely paint over your tree. I'm running out of the paint I mixed, so I'm going to have to mix some more. And when you have to mix more paint, try to get it as close as possible to the same color. So when you're mixing paint, you want to know, I use this much of this color and this much of another color, or approximately, so that you can get the same color. This tree, I grew up seeing this tree grow bigger and bigger. with that sound. Okay, so now I need to go into my brown, and I'm going to put tree trunk. I'm going to add a little bit of light to it here. And then put some snow over here on this tree. Just turn the paintbrush sideways because the snow is going to fall this way, and add it in. Don't put giant lines, just like what an end of a branch might look like. And also over here, I'm going to add some snow to your tree. Add a big blob of green there. Don't like blobs. Turning my snow green by messing with it, so I gotta stop. Okay. And it doesn't have to be everywhere. And don't make it in a pattern. Add some more green to this tree. Looks too pointy, too uniform. I don't want it to look uniform. So, okay, I'm going to add final touches of snow to this. Right here, here where I add it in. And it doesn't have to be perfect, so I need to leave it alone. Okay, now, by this time, your white has probably dried down here. Oh, sorry, forgot the last bush. Get a lot of white on your brush, and we're going to pat it like this. A little bit over this fence. And now, touching the green, and just little dots of green in here because this bush is lower and flatter, and it got a lot of green on it. I mean, a lot of snow on it. Especially down around here, we see green. And there's a hedge right here. I'll put that hedge in. Add some snow on top. Now this isn't really detailed. You could also add, you know, more trees in the background, you know, different things like that. So now we're going to put a shadow under this big tree. So you're going to have to renew the white down here because I'm sure it's dry. And my paintbrush has renewed it. And you're going to just, right now, just paint this white kind of in a circle. And I'm going to cover up my line here. There's a curb here. There's a curb over here. So the snow goes right up to the curb. So I'm going to take just Payne's Gray by itself, just a touch again. I got way too much on there. And I'm going to draw the curb. And the reason you can see the curb more prominently by the tree is because the tree protected the curb from getting as much snow. Now, with that same Payne's Gray, I'm just going to add just a little bit of blue of the Payne's Gray under the tree in a shadow. And it goes right up onto the curb over here. So we need to put some in here, and my road is too dry. So just add in some more white to get it to be wet again. And now I'm blending it into the background by adding white from the edges. All right. Well, that's the tree and the snow, the street in the snow. I hope you enjoyed doing this. I certainly enjoyed painting it. And see you again next time. Thank you for coming to my channel. I'd appreciate it if you enjoy this, if you'd give me a thumbs up. Thank you.